Hello. After we imported the tables and created the relationships, now let's work on create some queries under Access. So queries normally means data research. So for all of the information we have in the five tables, so think about it from a user's perspective. I want to answer many questions. I want to know, like, for example, all of the invoices related to a specific customer, or the top five invoices we sold in last month, and which employee or salesperson has the greatest sales, right, during this period. So lots of your data insights we need to generate from the existing tables. So that's where the purpose of Access is designed. So with the existing data, the data queries and data search and the data reports. So now, we'll start to learn different ways to create data queries. So first, for all of the creating a new object like table, form, query, or reports, start from the create the tab. So if you click on that, we experience the table right before, and this is the form. You have different ways to create your user interactive forms. For query, if you want to use the built-in, like, some template, you can use query wizard or query design. And many times we need to actually write our own SQL code to do the data search. And then finally, you can do like a report. This is more like a formatted dashboard. Okay, you can have lots of formatting, like, rather than a temporary like data search, and then you want to produce for reports like, for example, weekly sales reports or monthly, this recurring. So we want to build some, permanent, relative permanent formats, right? Like a dashboard, we want to use recurring, for, doing the use of the data state. So for the queries, let's try the first one. If you're looking for the handouts, I'm looking for step 5. So a simple query first. Okay, I want the purpose. When you do a query, you need to have a purpose, right? So what do you want to find? Okay, so what the data you want to pull from the existing tables. For example, so this one I'm trying to do a combo, like two criterias, Texas customers with a credit limit. I think this one probably I don't have, the credit limit in this here. Let me check the customer. Yeah, I think I deleted. So let's revise it too. So let's delete the credit limit. If I have that data, I can add that search. Okay, so I just want to find the customers have the address in Texas. Oh, so number 5 of the step 5 in the handout. So to do it here, so you can take a look for your customer table. Again, before you create the queries and write your code, you need to have a comprehensive understanding what the data you have in the database, like, the columns, the data type, and the connections. Then, you can see, right? So what do you have? And then you need to build a right path to read to the data and get what you want. So now I see, if I want to do a Texas customer in the customer table, I have a state variable, right? Like 2 letter. So I can, I want to pull all of the customer with a date in TX, right? So how I can do this? Certainly under Excel, you can do this like manually with like maybe zero or like just do a filtering right under Excel. But we have, that's not the main purpose for Excel, but here we can do it using the query. Okay, let me close this. And so create a query design. And this one is similar to the relationship, right? But you have all of, this is your data table, right? I want to do the search. For this one, I need a customer, right? I only need a customer table because the data is from one table only. And if you want all of them, okay, I can select, right? So what do you want to present in your output? Okay, this all of the existing columns, you can pick all and choose. Or if you want all of them, I think you can do like import all. But for example, I want to do the company name, maybe just a phone number and maybe state, right? So if you need other things, you can do also, but I just for example, okay. So you pull, yeah, let me also, so you can just try to move up, and your existing, so again, with the query design, the format, after you open, you have all of your tables. If you need to do search from like two tables, and you can pull them, both of them in here, okay, like connected. And then you pick the columns you want to show in the output. Okay, maybe not all of the existing tables, and then put your criteria. And if I uncheck, so the state won't show. Okay, so this is the appear, like show or hide. Then criteria. Okay, this one is the important criteria. I even can put more than one criteria. So this one I will do state, very simple. Okay, equal Texas. Okay, you can put I think a semi, like a parenthesis or something. Access when putting the queries is very, I think, flexible. It's not really case sensitive. Even in my database, I may have capitalized the TX, but here I can just put a small, like, so lower TX. So state equal to TX. Now, this is the simple criteria. Okay, learning, and then I think go back to home, create. Oh, query design. Okay, under here. Under your query design, make sure you are under this tab. You will see the wrong. So means, okay, run the query I created. And now you should returning to all of your Texas customers. How I can know? Because the text, the state variable, you can see you don't have any other states, okay, in this here. So now you can save. Okay, like when you close, it will pop up save. But for the query design, there's three. So if I do here, I think home. So for query design, I have three different like views. If you do here, this is the data sheets, is like the output. If I want to go back to my design stage, right? So I want to change my criteria or add some other criteria, or because the data search you may not want to save it. It's really exploring the data. Or this is SQL. The Access automatically convert the query design into the code. So lots of experienced database, like designers, they write their own code, okay, rather than use the query design. So this is how the code look like. I will show you one SQL, the code step later. But this is so it's three different views. Okay, if you want to again see them, I think believe from here now you can do the query design. You can toggle, okay, between and from. Now I'm going to the this is SQL query. This is the again, and that's how we build. Or, for example, I just want to show you, like, I can say, I want to see the customer in Texas and also California. Okay, like, two state. And I can add a or. Then you, under the query design, you can run. And now you will include the customers from two states. So, or, okay, you couldn't use and because no customer is both in California or Texas. If you put that code, you will get nothing. Okay, like zero outcome. So again, that's like really a simple way, okay, to work on. Now I'm going back to the design. I want to leave the Texas customer only. I will remove this. And you can play around, okay, with other things. So I will close and save. I will call this Texas customers. That's now you see a different object. Okay, so that's like this is a data search result. Okay, I want to give a proper title because you may have many different queries like your web search, right? So I want to save this as a history so I can know what I had done in that query. Okay, so query, so table, forms, query, and then later the report. So that's step 5. So now let's do another one. I think it's step 6. I want to create another, I want to find out which customer didn't make any purchase during this data period. Why we want to know that information? In other words, inactive customers, right? Because when you work on, customer relationships, you really want to have a profiling of your active, inactive customers, right? The customers by different attributes. So you understand their attributes, their purchasing behavior, so you can come up with better marketing strategies, right? That's a way we can escalate our sales. So which customer didn't make a purchase, and then you generate a list and then you want to follow up. Okay, what's happening with them? So you may want to give them a survey, what's happening, and you may want to give the promotion like coupons and discounts. So to try to get them back, okay, like a marketing analysis, right? So how we can find customer, think about which table I need. Customer, but didn't make purchase, right? So those customer in the customer table, but didn't buy anything, didn't have any invoice ID in the sales order table. So for this query to be done, we need two tables, right? You have that in customer, but not in sales order. Okay, this one definitely you can write your own code, but we call this non-matching query. We can use a query wizard, okay, but you can see the code later. So create, okay. This one, okay, query wizard, because the Access has 4 types of query wizard we can directly use to save some of your query time. Third and first. Okay, so these two, the third one, you can use it to find a data record like customer made a purchase. No, it means I have this customer in both tables, sales and the customer table. Okay. But we are doing the opposite. A record in the customer table, but not in the sales order, so is found unmatched. Okay, so duplicate means you have a matching. The opposite is unmatched. So if you are trying to do some data search like this, you can use a wizard. Otherwise, if you really have your unique, you have to do your own code. Okay, so not everything. So just some simple template. Okay, this one I will click on the first. The OK, and now you can pop up. This one you need to pick up 2 tables. Okay, first one, customer table. Next. And second time, be careful, I'm picking the sales order table because comparing, okay, these two, which customer didn't show up in the sales order. Okay, next. Yeah, they already see and they already very smart only because they share customer ID and this is on equal. If you have a uh, matched, right? The duplicate, you will have equal sign. Oh, but this is actually not equal to each other. So they don't have matching customer ID between the two tables. And the next, which one you want to show, right? Definitely, I want to the outcome. So which customer, the company name, and probably a phone number, maybe the city. Again, you can choose all of them and use this double arrow. Okay, that's fine. Then view the result because this is the first table, not really modifying a prior design and save. Now you have the confidence. Okay, those other customers, there are a lot, didn't show in any of the invoice ID, means they haven't made a purchase. So very interesting, right? So it's a long list. And you may want to find out, okay, like, for each of them, you may want a employee or salesperson to follow up, right? Why they are kind of inactive now. So customer without matching sales orders. Okay, so this is yeah, I want to save. Then how about if you say I really want to find the who is the who make the purchase. So this is not in the handouts, but I will show you that quickly also. Okay, create a query wizard. But this time I'm finding a duplicate query wizard. The customers made a purchase active. Oh, so I'm still using the same tables. Yeah, customer ID. Right. No, I think this is not the one. The phone numbers. So you give up on back. So customer, let me try briefly. Okay. And this one next. Oh, okay. I will give up this one because that's something different. Okay, I will just give up. Okay, so but we finished the step 6 unmatched query. And if you open that query again, right, I want to check probably, for example, the design view, you can see, the design will because you can manually actually do this rather than using the query design or query wizard. That's how they design it. If you do it manually, I can learn from here. For this one, you are pulling two tables here, right? So two connected tables. You must have this connection before you can do a joint search. But this one is under the sales order table. I'm asking the customer ID is none. Okay, so means I have it under the customer table, but not matching with the sales orders. Okay, so that's the case. Okay, you don't see the customer in the sales order table, so means they are missing sales values. Okay, so and then the SQL, the code. This is how the code. So select from the two tables, but the criteria, okay, like in one of the customer ID is none, okay, means no matching value for the customer ID. Okay, not all customer has made the purchase. Okay, different ways. So that's step 6. I think step 7, we are trying to create a revenue for the order details. I'm trying to create. Okay, this is not a query actually. So if you all open the order detail table, I have a quantity sold, unit price, right? But I really want a total sales revenue for each invoice item, okay, like invoice inventory item. So let you know you can directly create a calculation field under your table, or if you don't have the data initially. So to do that, click on this, the order detail table, and under home, go to the design view and add a fifth, okay, column. So I will call it revenue or sales revenue. But when you pick up the data type, use the calculated. Okay, calculated means, I need to use a formula to calculate. And again, if you don't need to but pick, okay, quantity times, okay, use the correct mathematics sign, the operation sign, times unit price. You don't really need to even type, okay, and this is the expression value. I think now you can click on OK. And for this one, the result type, okay, the format result type, okay, you can refine from here. The result type, I can use a single, because all currency, all right. And that will give you auto 2 digits, okay, for the result. Okay, but I think, now you add this calculate in the field, and then we go back to the datasheets view. Yeah, I save my design. Now you can see it's nicely the table, because from here I can probably search oh, the top invoices, right? Top invoices with sales revenues and other related insights for the total revenue information. Okay, but the revenue was not available from the original table. So that's step 7. Okay, and close and save. Okay, it's just a revision update of the existing tables. And finally, I think I will try, to show you, the how to write my own SQL code, right? Because that's actually most professional database management. You do data search. From here, still like a create, okay, and then query design. But don't do anything. Okay, go to the query design and SQL, or under the view SQL. Okay, then you will have this is the working space. Okay, so you can input your own code. From here, you can type what I have in the handouts, or sometimes to avoid, because the access is very sensitive to the typing, like syntax. Okay, like typos, or even like those comma delimitations, so, and the select is a prompt automatic. Okay, but I can just copy and paste what I have in the handout. So even sometimes when I try to copy and paste, you may have syntax error or mistake, but you can revise according to the feedback. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to rank the total sales revenue. Okay, all of the invoice, you can see the purpose. Create a query showing each invoice and its total revenue. Because if you're looking for the order detail, I can quickly checking this. You can see for each, the revenue for each item, but there is not a total revenue for the, one invoice, right? The sales revenue for each invoice is separated by different inventory items. I want to summarize a total sales revenue for each invoice, means I need to group the invoice ID, then total their revenue, but it's not readily available. And I couldn't really do this use a simple query design, then I have to write my own code, right? So let's go back to that purpose to see how I write the code. I'm selecting order detail, that's the table name, the invoice ID, right? That's a unique. But, I put a mass operation, I couldn't really increase, but so sum the order detail, the revenue column, which we just created, right? Group by each invoice ID, right? So aggregate by each invoice ID, and then sum it, add them up, and call this column as the total revenue. You are generating a different outcome as the original order details. Okay. But the data is coming from the order details table, but I'm, updating, right? So revising the different the data formats. So group by each invoice ID and calculate the total revenue for each invoice ID. This is so same thing. I need to run my code. I think and parameters. I think yeah. Did you see right? Because I think when I create the table, I put a revenue. Okay, like for me to do here. I can go back to here because if you see my design, I'm going to back to the table. Okay, the home. I don't have the S. Okay, so it's very sensitive. I have a revenue, but not S. Okay, that's like the SQL couldn't recognize this. Okay, I can either delete that S in my SQL code or come back to the table and add this S to the column name. Okay, so and then close it and save. Now let's see. Okay, it's always a testing. Okay, like run. Now I think it's worked. See, invoice each individual invoice and its sales revenue later. I even can, I think, rank it. Okay, like you can do from large to small, right? Now you can easily find the top five sales invoices or top six, right? And again, that's how I did the sort. Okay, when you click on the right, you immediately see, and even I think you can add filters, but right now you can select all, black, smallest to largest, or from largest to smallest. And again, if I want to go back to the SQL, after adding this sort function, the default, I think in order details sum as revenue from here, I didn't really see I think you can do something like add a, like order by, uh, the revenue by percentage. But if I want to close, I think let's try to close and it will save. And I will call this total, what I put on the, yeah, invoice total. So I don't have the total sales revenue for each invoice in any of the prior existing tables, but I created a query and then, finished okay, this calculation. Why I need to query one total revenue? Let me see. Anything? I did change the design views. Oh, sorry. SQL. Yeah, that's what I did. Huh? And the parameters. I did something. Because sometimes when I change the has total revenue. Okay, let me do like a rate some. So I'm just to try to copy and paste. The SQL is very sensitive sometimes. Okay, so I'm trying to redo this and run. Hmm, what I did. Maybe because I changed this, the inventory. But if you followed me and you got the, the query result, you can just save and I will double check this error, but I think if you got the result in the first round, you are fine. I think that's pretty much I want to show for the queries, for the initial, learning. And I also put a, do by your own. There are two more questions, and you can work those queries, add two more in this same database, okay, and then, before you submit. So that's kind of the second assignment. Um, but I will double check mine and find out, okay, what's going on. And that's the second recording.